In just 2 days, state lawmakers will try to get to the bottom of what went so wrong with the I-84 construction project. We'll hear from two of those lawmakers who will be conducting the hearing in just a few minutes. And later on, we'll also hear from state workers who say this is just another reason why projects having to do with public safety should not be sold to the lowest bidder. But first, here's Eric Zager, who has more on an audit detailing how the project was mismanaged.
In some ways, the 60-page audit is even more damning than even the harshest critics contemplated. The overly botched Interstate Highway 84 project between Cheshire and Waterbury, in a word, is bewildering.
We just found out that the lights are falling on I-84.
For the roughly $60 million taxpayers shelled out, including almost $13.5 million in cost overruns, not even the lights were installed properly. The independent report found from the amount of asphalt to a drainage system, little is up to spec. How could that be? The audit found no oversight from Connecticut's Department of Transportation or the construction consultant staff it hired to oversee the work. The report concludes they most likely observed the flaws but did not report them.
Some things that the government does should not be privatized. And when it comes to public safety and overseeing construction projects and the public's confidence in transportation, that's one of them.
Contractor LG DeFleece is bankrupt. The company contracted to inspect the work, McGuire, is still in business. Attorney General Richard Blumenthal says the audit offers powerful ammunition to go after both companies. Blumenthal vows to do all his office can to get back every penny the state is owed.
Any taxpayer who knows the evidence that's presented in this audit should be absolutely appalled and outraged.
Representative Tony Guerra chairs the Transportation Committee. He said beside quickly repairing the road, lawmakers need to jump in and make wholesale changes to prevent it from ever happening again.
What we can do as legislators is re-amp the whole bidding system. And when I say that, I mean that maybe we need to put in place a grading system for contractors too.
And here now to talk about the highway debacle and the hearing set to start on Tuesday are Senate Minority Leader John McKinney, Republican from Fairfield County, and Senator Donald DeFranco, a Democrat from New Britain. Gentlemen, thanks for being here. Senator McKinney, 2 weeks in a row. You get a gold star for that.
2 weeks in a row. Great to be here again.
Recognized. Let's get right to this, though, gentlemen. I guess letters were sent out to people that you want to come in and testify for your hearing, commissioners from the Department of Public Safety, from the Department of Transportation. Who exactly are we going to be seeing coming to the Capitol to testify about what went so wrong?
Well, we've, as you indicated, have invited a large number of individuals to come in. The two commissioners, we've invited the key players in DOT, the design firm, the two representatives of both companies that were under contract to DOT, some employees from DOT.
Are the commissioners coming in? Have they responded?
Both commissioners. Commissioner of DPS is Commissioner
Fleming? No. Department of Public Works, is he coming as well?
Commissioner Carpenter and Commissioner Danaher. Commissioner Carpenter of DOT and Danaher is new, but Danaher is coming in from Public Safety and Carpenter from DOT will be there.
And this is a pretty spectacular thing that's happening, correct, Senator McKinney? You had said in your 9 years there, this is the first time you recall something like this happening.
Right, and it's long overdue. We as a Transportation Committee and as a legislature, quite frankly, have never engaged in the requisite oversight of our state agencies. It's a role we should be playing. I'm happy that we're having these hearings. This I-84 project was a complete failure by the Department of Transportation, a complete failure of the contractors. It's something that we should have caught earlier if we had the right process in place. So we need to not only find out what went wrong, and it looks like everything went wrong, but we also need to find out how we can change the process and the culture in DOT and in all of our state agencies so this doesn't happen again.
Quickly, let's go to a graphic, although Eric did touch on some of this in his story. This is some of the interesting tidbits having to do with this. Sinkhole was discovered 15 months ago, first triggering the concern. Hundreds of faulty storm drains were discovered. Other steel parts on concrete bridge were installed backward. So basically, the $56 million project is now up to $71 million. Listen, I work in Hartford. We travel this stretch all the time. It was a pain when it was going on. It's nice that it's done, but are they going to have to rip this apart and start all over again?
Quite likely the repairs will have to be undertaken, will result in additional impediments to travelers in that area. But you got to remember, most of these most of these shortcomings are subsurface, so it will require a lot of exploration and determination. Bids just came back in last week. The estimate for the repairs on the low bid is $19.5 million. There are higher bids, and we'll have to analyze those bids and determine which one they'll go forward with. But there's an enormous amount of work that needs to be corrected.
Who's to blame, Senator McKinney?
Well, I think ultimately the Department of Transportation's to blame. This was a project that was contracted out, and there are some who, quite frankly, I think for political purposes, want to blame privatization. But ultimately, the oversight of this project fell on the DOT. And I'll just give you an example of one major failure. According to DOT's own guidelines, there's supposed to be one project engineer on every project, and that project engineer is supposed to only be responsible for one major project. It turns out that we had a DOT official who was responsible for 3 major projects at the same time. There's no way he could have gotten the work done that was required. There was no support and oversight within the department here. And whether this was done by department officials or a contractor, the fact is that DOT should have been overseeing the project. They failed to do it.
Senator Franz, would you agree with this? From what I understand, a private company was hired to oversee this process, which is the privatization, I believe, that you're talking about, Senator McKinney. And of course, the fact that a private construction company was also hired to do this, I believe that's now bankrupt, correct?
That is correct. But I do think this is a culmination of a lot of bad things happening. DOT over the years has suffered tremendous staff reductions. I mean, they're down about 1,000 employees over their high point a number of years ago. So staffing is diminished. During the Rowland administration, there was an increased reliance placed on contractors. So typical services that had been contracted out grew. And in this case, a core state responsibility, the inspection of construction work, was contracted out. That, I think, is where this situation went terribly wrong. We should never, I think the lesson we learned here is that we should not contract out core state services like crime enforcement or things of this nature, inspection responsibilities, which are really the key management functions of state agencies.
Senator McKinney, we're going to hear from state workers in a few minutes who say if ever the time is now to have contract reform, which would stop privatizing certain types of services, like Senator Franz was saying. Do you agree with that?
Well, we should have contracting reform. This year, I actually voted for the contracting bill because it was a good bill. In prior years, the governor was forced to veto it on 3 separate occasions because it wasn't just about contracting. It was about a complete ban on privatization. The fact is that privatization can work to the benefit of taxpayers, but we need to have a better contracting process in place to make sure that when we do privatization, it's done the right way and it's done with proper agency oversight.
Senator Franz, what are you hoping to get out of this hearing? Is it going to be another hearing, or are we going to see real results?
Well, I think we will see real results out of this. First off, we want to make sure that legislators have the opportunity to get all the information they need, and the public obviously will share in that. Secondly, I think we want to determine accountability in this process, and most importantly, I think we want to determine what type of legislation would be appropriate to prevent this type of occurrence in the future.
Senator McKinney, 10 seconds. Do you think we're going to actually get something out of this, or is it talk?
No, I think this is a very good oversight hearing. We should continue it until we get all the answers, and the people should know that, the state with the Attorney General have also been working hard to recover the losses from these private contractors, so the people of the state of Connecticut won't pay for their bad work.
Let's hope that's the case. All right, gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.